Welcome to this week's episode of Zero to a Million, brought to you by Unstack. I'm your host, Zach Rigo. Today I'm joined by Elaine Hsieh, co-founder of EH Chocolatier. Elaine, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So excited to get the background of the story. I obviously, we exchanged some emails about it. You had met a friend years ago on Martha's Vineyard, which is where I vacation often and love to visit. But take me through a bit of your background before, founding a chocolate business.
Yeah, my background basically, I went to school and graduated with a degree in medicine. So I'm actually a physician by training. I practiced for a number of years, did some healthcare consulting. And during that time, I also went to culinary school. It was something I enjoyed cooking, so I wanted to sort of pursue that a little bit more seriously, and found that I really enjoyed doing pastry work. So while I was doing my healthcare consulting, I had a small pastry business on the side, kind of like a high-end boutique private dessert business. And during that time, I became good friends with my partner, Catherine Sweeney, who we met because we have a mutual friend who invited both of us to make her wedding cake. We had never met before, and neither of us have ever made a wedding cake. So I'm not quite sure where she was when she was thinking about that. But we kind of met, and then my friend whose wedding it just kind of escalated. It went from like what we thought would be a simple 3-tier cake to like, actually I would really like this cake that I've seen on the cover of Cape Cod weddings, and it was this like cascading edible chocolates, 3-tier extravaganza from this very well-known wedding cake maker in the area. And we were like, oh, okay. And then she said, oh, and I forgot to mention I'm getting married in like August on Martha's Vineyard, and the venue is outside. Yep. So over a course of several weeks to months, Catherine and I kind of made our way through making this cake, which was actually the easiest thing to do, was making the cake and like just doing the frosting. The hardest part was sort of the decor. And I think it was really kind of, in retrospect, when I think about it, it was really where Catherine and I kind of connected, and I think really was sort of the basis of working with chocolate, because that's what we ended up making the shells out of, was chocolate. And then we sort of created our own molds out of real seashells, and then we sort of decorated it so that it would look like actual seashells. And I think that process took a very long time to figure out, problem solving wise. But also I think it really, I think it could have gone wrong in many ways. But instead, I think it really kind of was this fun process with someone I didn't really know that well, over kind of a challenging project, which in the end turned out to be really, a lot of fun. Like Catherine and I had a great time doing it. And, once the cake was kind of delivered, put together, and finally eaten, we could both kind of be like, oh my God, thank God. Done with that. So we became really good friends over time with that. And so she worked over at Harvard in financial aid and admissions, and she was ready to take her retirement. And I was, I'd practiced enough and had done enough healthcare consulting that I was really interested in moving to a different space. So when she said, well, I'm thinking of taking a retirement, I said, well, had you ever thought about starting a business? And she said, no, actually, I have no interest in starting a business. So I ended up cajoling her through the course of a year, where we just did a lot of chocolate work at my house. And at that time, it was like 2009. So she retired. I sort of semi-retired from my work. And we started this friends and family program. It's a Chocolate of the Month Club. We did that for about 9 months. And really, it was a great way to test recipes, get better at doing what we do, which neither of us are professionally trained as chocolatiers, so we're self-taught, and figure out like all the little pieces to it. Because I think it's one thing to like make chocolates for like the holidays, which is what we used to do, and like put them in a container and give it to your friends. Right. It's another thing to figure out how to do it and then actually deliver it, whether you're shipping it or dropping it off, in a way that it'll arrive in a great condition. So that 9-month was a great period of time. We built a website with a developer on, I think it was Magento at the time, which I think it's an open platform, right?
Yep.
And, we took photos, we figured out how to work with USPS in terms of shipping. We tested warm weather packaging so things wouldn't melt. So we both have friends in like very hot places in the US. So we were constantly like shipping them things and kind of saying, okay, take a picture. What does it look like? So, and it was really kind of, working out just a lot of those systems that I think you don't really appreciate go into actually having a business versus like doing something that you love to do. But at the end of the 9 months, it was great because we've figured out a lot of the issues, not all of them. That never seems to be ending. But and we also actually, because we sold it, we actually had this very nice kind of, nut of cash to actually move forward to an actual commercial space. But like most importantly, because Catherine and I were friends before we started this, you always hear about, good friends wanting to start a business together, and then it becomes a complete disaster. They never speak to each other again. And I would say that Catherine and I just became even closer friends. She and I are very well paired. We're very yin yang. Her strengths are my weaknesses, and vice versa. And it was we paired very well. I think that we always sort of joke about how the two of us make up one brain, basically. And so that was sort of the beginning of our business.
So you started with a website. Obviously, you started shipping because you were delivering them, whether it was long distance shipping or not. You started delivering them to friends and family. That obviously lends itself to starting with e-commerce and solving the shipping problems, which y'all did. How did that evolve and start to grow into the business that it is today with, a physical location and others?
Well, in the beginning, it was very labor intensive in terms of the shipping, because we would go onto the USPS website, and I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but it's not shipping friendly, especially when you want to ship a lot of things. So that actually took a tremendous amount of time in the very beginning. In 2010, sort of with that amount of cash that we had, we ended up renting a commercial kitchen space in an industrial building. So we were on the second floor. And for the most part, we were doing a combination of wholesale to some local businesses, as well as trying to develop our e-commerce parts. And I would say probably over a couple of years, we managed to streamline things where, we kind of knew what box sizes we needed. We knew where to order them from. We knew how often to do that. Similarly we sourced really good warm weather packaging that they have a lab there. So they tested out different temperatures with our products so they could give us real data in terms of, you have 3 days. If you put this amount of ice, 3 days in this temperature, it'll be perfect when it arrives. And eventually, not so much on Magento. When we shipped it to Shopify, which I think in 2013, so 3 years from when we started, with Shopify, what's sort of nice about the platform is that there's all these apps and third-party providers. And so we use Shipping Easy, and it just made the whole thing so much better. They're integrated. Orders that come in end up just sort of automatically shipping to go to Shipping Easy. We generate our pick list from there. All our shipping labels come out of there very automatically. So it was a little bit of a process, but once we had it dialed in, after the first 2 or 3 years, it's really worked well for us. I mean, I would say this past couple of years, especially with the pandemic, we've had even more shipping than usual. So that's been a bit challenging in terms of the physical space because we don't have a very large space. So that's right. That is one thing that we are now running into is the fact that we're limited in some ways by the physical space that we have.
So in those early days, what was, and let's say, hey, we get on Shopify, we kind of get our systems in place to where we can scale, right? There's some things that just aren't scalable early with any business, but you get it to a place where you feel like you can scale. What was really driving the demand for the business at that point? And was it just word of mouth? Was there any marketing that was going into driving traffic to the website? Would love to hear a little bit about how y'all scaled earlier in the business.
Yeah, for us, what we found was a couple of things. So word of mouth. So from that initial group of friends and family, they provided us with quite a network. The second thing was we very early on did direct marketing in the sense by using newsletters. So we've always used e-newsletters for our customers. And I would say that is, in terms of marketing, that is the primary one that we use that's the most effective. Our list has grown over the years, and we constantly use. We don't try to send too many to bombard people, but enough that people don't forget about us. And honestly, press was really the other way that people found us. We've been really lucky. We've had really good press from the very beginning. We were in the New York Times for Best in Box. We were we've been in Food and Wine as one of the top 50 chocolate shops in the US. We were voted one of the top 10 chocolatiers in North America by Dessert Professional. So, there's photos. I mean, we've had a lot of local press, like Best in Boston, several years. So what we found that whenever we get a hit like that, it really expands our market. People are just attracted to that kind of press. And it is one of those things that once you get some press, you're now gaining attention. So then other people who are maybe in a larger geographic catchment will sort of see it, and then they'll pick you up. So I would say those are, for us, the ones that seem to have the most direct effect. We've tried because we're not that large, and it seemed like any kind of Facebook ads, Google ads, that type of advertising really requires a lot of work, I think, to do it properly and to do it effectively. We've dallied a little bit in it, and made some commitments of our budget to it. But I think our experience has been that it hasn't been that effective for us. I think for other people it has, but we're just not large enough really to, have anybody sort of on staff, or even, we don't have enough in our budget to really kind of pay an outside service to do it for us properly. So we don't actually do that much digital advertising in those areas.
And what is the newsletter? Take me through that. Is that just a consistent update of what's new in the business, new products, new designs, things of that nature? I'd love to hear how you're keeping that mailing list engaged.
Yeah.
Because I do see this as a product online, and correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, this seems like an event. I'm having a dinner party, I'm having a wedding, I'm having a, 30th, 40th birthday party or something. I'm going to buy these really beautiful design, chocolates and display them, or I'm walking down the street and I'm hey, I'm popping in here and grabbing some stuff, which is a different experience. But would love to hear kind of how you're engaging with your audience through email.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say that, because I think that, that sort of event kind of chocolate is a very small percentage of our business. Most of the people who come to us, whether they're sort of walking into the shop or they're coming to us online to order, they're just chocolate lovers. They just love to eat chocolate, or they know people who love to eat chocolate, or they're I've had this great chocolate and I want you to try it. And so with the newsletter, because chocolate is seasonal, or can be seasonal, we basically hit all the holidays. So, every single major holiday, we have some sort of seasonal chocolate related to that. And what we do with the newsletter is it's sort of plotted out around the holidays, in terms of like announcing the collection for like, say, the fall or for the holidays or for Hanukkah or for, for Mother's Day. Usually gets sent out like a month in advance. And then we sort of tick off like, at least once a week, something's featured from that collection. Where we sort of talk about, how it was made or like whose favorite it was or how you might think about giving it to someone. And interspersed with that newsletter will be other things that are kind of happening. So we have, our newsletter list is broken out to like a general everybody list and a smaller local list. So the smaller local list might get more newsletters because they're on the general list and the local list. And so with the local list, they'll get things that we don't offer online because they don't ship well, or it's like a last minute thing the kitchen's making and I just want to kind of move it. Or we're having a pop-up or some sort of an event or like holiday stroll or, announcing that we've got our iced drinks are back on the menu. So that's, so the local gets that part plus the bigger mailing list. The bigger mailing list is basically to everybody who has signed on who, will either ship or, like I said, locally might stop by. And they're around seasonals. And then they also will, sometimes we'll add certain features to it depending on what's going on. Like if one of my chefs is giving a virtual class that's coming up, we'll add that in. If we, something kind of fun's happening, we'll add that in. If we're doing something, even if it's not seasonal, we have these things called MMBs or mini micro batches. So basically it's a very sort of limited edition, maybe 50 units. And they'll go first to our we actually have a small VIP list. So those are the folks who purchase from us over a certain amount of dollars or over a certain amount of times every year. We sort of assess it every year. And those people will get first chance at the MMBs. So they get the email first. And they know that. And then like maybe 12 hours, 24 hours later, we release it to the general list. And those typically go like, I don't know, like in an hour.
I love that.
Yeah.
Two really interesting things you mentioned there that I've actually heard from a few in very different product lines too, but from a few merchants, product launches or creating these experiences around a product, which is kind of what you mentioned with your VIP list. I love that you've created a community with the VIP list and you've also created a community with the classes, which is unique and something that not a lot of e-commerce stores are doing. I think you see that a lot in other spaces, but I think that's a great experience for customer engagement and to get them really close to the product as well, and feel really connected to the business, which is key when you're a smaller business than maybe some of the other chocolate companies in the world. So that's a really, really cool experience. And I'd encourage anyone listening to this to actually start to think about how they might implement something similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we found that it's really, when if they haven't heard from us in a while, I feel like things kind of come to a little bit of a lull. So for us, it's always about sort of making sure that we're engaging with them at least on a weekly basis. We try to give them a little break in the summertime, the general list, because shipping in the summer is very hot. So, and most people are traveling and they're not really thinking chocolate. So the general list doesn't see us as much in the summer. The local list does. But we always try to make sure that we're in touch with our folks.
Love it. Elaine, where can everyone learn more about EH Chocolatier and potentially sign up for one of these? Honestly, the Big Tasty looks amazing. I sent Grant on a run to go buy some stuff already. So where can everyone learn more about the product and even visit you? Obviously, a lot of our listeners are in Cambridge and the Boston area.
Yeah. So, you can always go to our website, which is ehchocolatier.com. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I believe. And the handle is at EH Chocolatier. Instagram, I think, is where we're the most active.
This product lends itself to Instagram.
Yeah.
There's
nice.
a lot of beautiful food here.
Yeah. And we're located in West Cambridge. So we're at 145 Huron Avenue, Cambridge. So it's
awesome.
It's a nice neighborhood, nice area. And we're there Tuesday through Saturday from 11 to 5, and closed on Sunday and Monday.
Awesome. And for any of our corporate listeners, which obviously there are a bunch there, you do corporate gifts as well. It looks like there's some pages dedicated to that.
Yeah, we're very excited about that. We literally just launched those pages like
Love it.
2 days ago. Normally, you have to actually, or in the past, it's always this back and forth with emails between Catherine, who handles all the corporate and custom orders. But now we developed it such that people who are interested can learn more details in terms of like cost and, if they want to customize it, what the cost would be there, timeline. But they can actually order it online now. And we also have set it up so that they can upload their shipping addresses. So we also ship. So, we'll ship like we said, anywhere in the US. We don't ship internationally. But we are happy to do your shipping. So, we've seen a lot of that during the pandemic. We saw a lot of companies shipping to their employees, which was really a nice thing to see. And the holidays is a big time for people to ship to their clients, sort of their VIP folks. And we encourage people, if anybody's listening, we encourage you to get in touch with us sooner. Really soon. It's going to be a very busy season, I can tell already. And a lot of folks are running out of supplies, like our distributors are running into some issues. And so therefore we are as well. So at some point, I'm not quite sure when we might need to actually not take orders. We've been really encouraging all of our old customers and any new customers. The earlier you let us know, the better it will be for everyone.
Awesome.
And I just want to say one of the things that's very popular, we have this person who purchases it every year for her friends. We have this Chocolate of the Month Club, which I think I mentioned is the thing we started off with. Every December, she gifts like a 6-month Chocolate of the Month Club to like 20 of her friends. And so every month for 6 months, they get a nice little gift from this person, which is kind of a nice way to kind of remember someone every month. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, so that's a good one.
Well, Elaine, thank you so much for joining and taking us on this journey. It's a great story. Obviously, an amazing product. I'm excited to try it out.
Great. I hope you enjoy it.